listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Live and direct from the SHR Media North Idaho studio, one each, singular. And today, let's see, is Tuesday, April 29th, the year of our Lord 2025. And I happen to be your conservative Sherpa. I am guiding you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, globalist lies, chaos, deceit, betrayal, and all that unfun stuff. Please note, what you're about to hear for the next hour and a half, 2 hours or so consists of my opinion only, and those of my guests, depending on who it is that drops in. But wait. I know one guest who has already dropped in. That's for me to know and you to find out very soon. I am doing the job the American media maggots won't. I am fundamentally changing America one leftist diaper at a time. We don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversations. We are still serving stiff drinks in the saloon, along with history, logic, rationality, proportion, context, clarity, tradition, and common sense for normal people like you and me. And what do we talk about? We talk about politics. We talk about religion, crime, culture, race, sex, economics, science, law. We talk about it all right here in the saloon where the speech is free, but the booze is not. I keep holding this up. Why am I doing that? Could there be some clear liquid in here resembling something similar to potato water? Boys and girls, I am streaming right now to a whole bunch of different places. Let me see if I can find some of them. Yes, there they are. Eventually, we end up being on Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Facebook Live, YouTube, the SHR Media YouTube channel, the SHR Media Rumble channel, X, Twitch, and KLRN. A whole bunch of great spots, a whole bunch of great places. First, let me bring my guest on. I may have another in the second hour. And for everybody who is already here, I want to say hello to Jersey Joe. I haven't seen Joe in a while. Joe, you've changed.
Yes, I got my hair done today.
You did. One hair?
Just two.
Singular? Two hairs?
Two hairs.
Two hairs. Better than one. Hey, look, the Phantom happens to be in chat. Isn't that odd that I would mention the chat room and the Phantom being in chat? Because here's the giglio. You too can be in the chat room. I consistently change our chat room. And this is the way it looks now. This is so funny. Maybe not funny weird, but funny ha-ha. Not Lord ha-ha. It shows here that if you're in the chat room, it's raining and it's dark, and you've got this great sofa on which to sit and speak to other people in the chat room. There's a warm, lovely fire right there. And the funny thing about that is that's pretty much exactly what's happening here right now. And that is to say, we have 4 rescue dogs, and I will ask this question of you. We had a rescue dog that passed away last June. It'll be, oh my God, in about a month, it will be a year since Angus passed away. And he did not like thunderstorms. Well, we had a hell of a thunderstorm that just came through here about an hour ago. And the 4 dogs that we have now, they don't really seem to care about that. But man, Angus was 10 when we got him. He passed away at 13. We only had him for 3 years. And I don't know if you've ever heard of thunder shirts, but we had to buy a thunder shirt for him, which squeezes the little doggies and makes them feel comfortable and safe. And anytime we knew that there was going to be a thunderstorm, we'd have to put the thunder shirt on the poor guy, because he literally, I mean, women, you would have loved him. He would have made a great, warm, shaggy vibrator, because he was, as long as there were thunder boomers and flashes of light in the sky that would shine through the windows. Oh my God, this poor little bastard. He was better than magic fingers on a bed for a quarter. That's how good he was. So did you ever have any dogs that, if and we got some fairly decent rain too. Did you ever have any dogs that were like that when the thunderstorms came by? Man.
I have my oldest right now. Well, my oldest now is what, a year and a half, almost 2 years old. Yeah, and what's worse is here in Florida, definitely on July 4th and New Year's Eve, you're going to have fireworks. Everybody's shooting fireworks off, and I mean everybody in your neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
It's very common here, and I'm not going to bitch about it because people have the right to do that. But yeah, my oldest dog, he does not like that. He gets scared, and he's so far up my ass, it's not even funny. If I burp, I'm burping fur.
Well, we have the Phantom in chat already, and you can be in the chat room too, folks. And we also have, as I indicated there, Mission Ready Men. Earl, my deepest apologies. I missed your show this morning. So I was going to be there. I planned to, and then I thought, oh, darn it. Somehow I missed it. Well, it was an hour later, and stupid me wasn't watching social media to see. So I apologize. I owe you a kibitzing. I know. It's sad. I owe Earl a kibitzing. Well, let me also indicate that, folks, you can subscribe to the SHR Media channel. And if you want to be in the chat room, the best chat room in which to plunge is the SHR Media YouTube channel chat room. And we ask you kindly if you would be so wonderful as to subscribe. We are literally, and I just checked minutes before the show, we're trying to get to 500 subscribers. We are 47 away from that right now. And if you could find it within your hearts to go to the SHR Media YouTube channel and subscribe, it would be a wonderful thing. Also,
smash that like.
Oh yeah, smash that like button as well as subscribe. And then on the other side, on the SHR Media, the SHR Media and BZ's Rumble channel, I have 102 followers over there, which was very nice. I appreciate all the following and whatnot. Last show on Saturday, I'm not sure what it was, by the way. The appropriate shirt for the shirt du jour for this show is the Gulf of America shirt. Last Saturday, great things happened. I had 500 people watching live, and then I had another 800 over here, and then I had another 200 or 300 someplace else. So I gotta figure out what drives this stuff. Is it content, or is it the way that you label or promote your show? I was listening to Rowdy Rick from KLRN this morning, and basically he said something similar to, the more provocative you go for the name or title of your show for an episode, the more people it will bring. And so, Jersey Joe, do you know anything about that? Because I'm trying to find out. There's a key in here, and I haven't found it. 16 people listening live and watching live right now. Thanks
If
to
I
each
knew
and
the
every one of
answer,
you.
I'd be a very rich man.
Well, I want you to be a very rich man because we need to know the answers. We must.
It's a very hit or miss, and I don't think there's an exact science to it.
Well, it's very sad. We need to have, and another couple of people just jumped on. Now we've got 20 people watching live. Because again, I say I can. I got to point right. Okay, there we go. You guys can't see this, but for whatever reason, up here in this little area, I see how many people are watching now. I do not know yet if that's a total of people watching or whether that's just because I'm a stupid dude. I'm a techno Luddite, so I don't know if that's how many people are watching currently on X. Whether that's how many people are currently watching on YouTube, I
think it's all together.
I don't know. Or it's a conglomerate of all of these things. But whether that's true or not, let's have a trunk monkey, shall we?
The trunk monkey theft retrieval system. Because sometimes getting your car back is simply not enough. Another revolutionary idea, pending approval from the Department of Agriculture.
Your hat is fabulous.
That is, I don't want to play all the trunk monkeys because there's a whole bunch of them, but I will play just a few of those trunk monkeys. I want to play a couple of trunk, or one. I want to play a singular trunk monkey per show until I run out of trunk monkey commercials. By the way, if you folks don't know, these were actual commercials done, I believe, in the 90s, late 90s or early 2000s, because the one car that you see there looks like about a 2000 Impala when it went to front wheel drive. So I'm thinking it was late 90s, early 2000s when the trunk monkey played into everyone's hearts and gripped everyone's glottis. This is also a weird story. It's like,
how you doing, Jeremy?
Oh, damn it. Pay attention, BZ. Pay attention. The Phantom is in there. I still want to pull the bold King Neptune scene, but I won't. Uh-oh. I don't know what that means.
Just ignore her. She should be in bed already.
Okay. That's telling her. That's telling her. Anyway, no worries. And the Phantom, it's free. Lost Wanderer. Welcome to you. I state when I see you, Lost Wanderer. All who wander are not lost. That's Mission Ready Men's finest and favorite trunk monkey. Welcome to Unleash Jeremy Hansen. I shared it. I liked it. I love it. I want some more of it. Thanks for being here. I see Reaver doing that. And Lost Wanderer says, I don't being appreciated being called out with his next story. I had to go. Okay. All right. Anyway. The last time I flew was in 2006 when I was in Sacramento working for my department and went down to the LA Sheriff's Department Supervisory Management School. And it's about a 6-month school. You fly down once a month for about a week and a half or 10 days. And that was 2006. That's the last time I flew. I cannot possibly feature these days being shoved in a thin aluminum tube with a bunch of people that you don't like, that smell, and especially in a story like this, Southwest Airlines passenger poops on seat after stripping naked. This makes no sense to me. Who would submit themselves to this kind of scurrilous behavior? I mean, there are fights, people drinking, people smell, their feet are pushing your table, your chair. That's reason number 79,523 as to why I just don't like to fly anymore. When was the last time you flew? Joyzy Joe.
Jesus.
No, BZ. Thank you.
It had to be a good, 5 years ago, I'd say.
Okay.
I like to not flying to my house anymore.
I decided when we go anywhere, my family consists of 4 rescue dogs and Mrs. BZ. We left California, always spell it with a K. I sold my house in 2021. We sold her house in Ghetto Central in 2022, and we got installed here pretty much in the new house in 23. So it's 25. We've been here for a little over 2 years, completely installed here. But we swore we would never be going back to California. And the other thing is, Mrs. BZ does not like to fly. I don't like to fly, not because I'm scared of flying so much, but I just don't want to subject myself anymore to the cattle car conditions and the great unwashed that you can find in public transportation. My first commercial flight was in the 60s, and that was back when people were they would wear a blazer or maybe a dress or a skirt, and the stewardess were dressed to the nines, and everyone was very nice. When you got your food, it was on a tray, and there was actual silverware that you would use to eat your food. Those days are just gone. And Phantom says, regarding that last story about Southwest, can you imagine the staff having to clean it up? That is so far beyond the pale.
I used to be so afraid to fly. Back in the 90s, I had to take a trip to catch up with my brother. I don't know if you remember the airline or the aircraft that crashed into the Everglades into the
yes, Florida Airways
before, and we had issues coming into can't remember what town in North Carolina, but I mean they had trouble coming in for the landing. They were losing power, getting power, and it was bad. And then the next night, I hear that thing crashed into Everglades, and ever since then, I didn't do good flying. In fact, first I started dating my wife, and her family was going to Cancun. So they invited me to go along. And we're flying into somewhere in Texas. I think it was Dallas. And we're hitting some turbulence. I went to grab her hand. She's like, whatever. And all of a sudden, just then the wing dropped like 5 foot. I then took my arm and just instinctively went across her and smacked it. She's going, my tits hurt. Oh, my God. And her mother looks at her and goes, well, if you had held his hand, he wouldn't have been able to smack you in the chest with it.
No kidding. Wait, if I had a producer, that's what you would have heard. So go ahead and say that again.
If you would have held his hand, he wouldn't have been able to hit you in the chest with it.
Someday I'll get a halfway decent producer because I sure as shit don't have one now. Cheetah, welcome to Cheetah in chat. He says commercial air has become something else these past few decades. And not to be deterred, Lost Wanderer said something similar to, holy cow. Oh, wait a minute. Put him back up there. Get up there. Do not spend an hour practicing Finnish before trying to type in English in a YouTube chat. Okay, Lost Wanderer, I think that's a situation that I myself personally will likely not encounter in whatever remaining hours and seconds are of me here on the planet. And he also says, if you count my multiple... Okay, first one of the night. Lost Wanderer says, if you count my multiple personalities, we actually have 52 people watching right now. Excellent.
Wrong button. I meant to hit the...
And a nice little paramecium. So $1.5 million a Pilo. Oh, I'm not quite sure what. Chat, Cheetah, you're going to have to tell me in what reference that is. A pilot's license. Okay. All right. I see it. I get it. Anyway, let's continue. But the theme of the show, I want to go over some news stories. 40 people watching live now in chat. Thanks to everybody. I like calling off the numbers when the numbers go up. I really enjoy that. There are some news stories I want to go to. The theme of the show tonight is Trump's first 100 days. I've got an hour. I'm sorry, I've got 2 hours to get there, but I want to go into a few stories before we get there, and some serious stories.
Let me jump in real quick because I just
Sure.
came across this. David Horowitz. Does that name sound familiar to you?
Red State.
David Horowitz, Freedom Center.
Okay. All right.
Passed away at 86. It just came up like 13 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. All righty. I did not know. So anyway, I've got some news stories to go through before we get to the happy stories, and before Rick Robinson from KLRN is otherwise occupied right now in this hour, and has indicated that he may come on in the second hour, and that's when I'd like all three of us to really get into and grind the flesh, so to speak, so that there are veins sticking out between our teeths or teeths, with regard to the first 100 days of Trump, because I think this is absolutely unprecedented. But before we get there, there are some stories that I wanted to go over, then some happy stories, because who doesn't like and want happy stories? 43 people watching live right now. This is from the New York Post. This is why we cannot afford to drop our guard at any time for any reason. Because these people, Hamas, self-proclaimed Hamas operative, was in the U.S. Air Force, indicted over a pipe bomb plot. I've been a terrorist since I was a kid. Now we're going to go to another story, which is, point the right way, BZ. Thank you. We're going to go into another story. It's tough because everything's reversed and I'm not smart enough to figure it out. But there was another story where a nightclub was crashed, and the linkulus is very similar to this. A self-described Hamas operative who infiltrated the United States Air Force and once boasted that he'd been a terrorist since he was a kid was hit with additional charges this week alongside 2 Pittsburgh women after the feds foiled an attempted terror plot involving a pair of pipe bombs. So the purpose in putting this story up is that these plotters are here, the terrorists are here, the cells are here, and the other terrorists are also domestic as well, like Democrats, like leftists. Assassination culture. This is from dailycaller.com. Poll shows about half of liberals believe killing Trump and Musk is justified. And obviously they believe that destroying property and setting things on fire is also justified as well. Foreign and domestic, the terrorists are here. The cells of the ones who are from outside the country, they're inside the country. And then the rest of the terrorist cells are the Democrats themselves. Here's a story that I wanted to bring up because this shows you how skewed the American media maggots are as well. This story came and died, and then it flew away really quickly, and there's a very important and salient reason why it did so. Now, Myrtle Beach shooting, this is from April 27th. Okay, just 2 days ago. Now, first, Jersey Joe. Do you remember this story being covered as far as you saw in the American media maggots? And by that, I mean ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, CNN, that kind of stuff.
To be honest, I didn't hear hide or hair, I think, till the next day.
Okay.
And it was just someone pointing out that, hey, by the way, do you know there was a mass shooting that the media didn't pick up on? And I was, hey.
Yeah. And thank you for pointing out the obvious, Jersey Joe, because here's what happened. We had an individual who was shot dead by police in Myrtle Beach, a mass shooting after firing off gunfire in a disturbance. 11 people were injured in that. Now, that is by definition a mass shooting in the United States of America. And police shot and killed this individual, but it didn't make the news. Here's why. The suspect is a man named Jarius Davis from Bennettsville, South Carolina. Well, what do we know about him? There he is down there. Let's see if I have. Oh, wait, BZ. This is why it died. It didn't make the narrative of the American media maggots because the suspect was black. And even though he was shot and killed by cops because he was a mass shooter, the American media maggots decided that they were going to completely they didn't just bury the lead on this. They buried the story because it didn't lend itself to a quick story that should have died, but would have been. Tell me, Jersey Joe, what would have happened had the melanin been reversed on this?
I'd probably still be covering it to this day.
Yes.
Screaming from the mountaintop. Oh, we got to do away with guns. We got to do away with guns. Look at this. Oh, conservatives are dangerous. We got to do away with them.
And again, that goes back to the original story that I had just a few moments ago, which says, as far as leftists, I call them the DLG, Democrats, leftists, and globalists, weigh in and say that, well, you know, the quiet part was never really said out loud. But now they have no qualms whatsoever about saying the previous quiet part out loud. And that's why this story died. It didn't fit the narrative. And here's another story that, along with that, is this. When you think that you fought and you've won, you haven't. And the facts are, here's a left-wing DA forcing prosecutors to consider racial identity in plea deals. Now, that's in a left-wing Minnesota county in the attorney's office, where prosecutors are being told that they must consider defendant's race when crafting plea deals, according to a local report which cites internal documents. And see, these people don't understand definitions at all. And doing something like this is the actual definition of racism. But this is carried out by GALPs, which are guilty, overeducated white people. And look, Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty speaks in video address. These are guilty, overeducated white people. And the nature of this, and I bring this to everyone's light, is in terms of this by its very nature is racist. This by its very definition is racism. But these people, they don't mind doing that. Then, of course, we're going to jump a little bit, because this was certain information has come to light to me. Mission Ready Men has an excellent quote in chat with regard to this. They'd be calling for more gun control and digging into his life and probably calling him a racist. Yeah, I would completely agree. Now, does that mean that, let me see if I go back to this. Does that mean that this guy is a racist by his nature? I don't know. There's nothing in the story about it, but I'm not going to simply assume that he is, because I am understanding that there's a lot more that we just don't know about that particular individual. But here's a story. We're going to jump a little bit and go across the pond, because in my estimation, we need to, because this is really weird. This is bizarre. Oh my gosh, what do I got? 8:30. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? Hang on, folks, boys and girls. I'm BZ. That's Jersey Joe. We're going to take a break as Jersey Joe waves. We're going to take a break here for a moment, and we'll be right back. And when we do, I will be discussing that show. What do I have looking up here? 50 people watching live. Thanks to every one of you. Please, if you would. Hey, it's time to winkle, isn't it? Well, as old as I am, maybe. Be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here's Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism, so common today, is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Hey fellas, are you mission ready? Coming in November to SHR Media. By way of Big E Jackson, you need to check out Mission Ready Men. It's a show that equips you to navigate our society's challenges from a biblical perspective with courage and conviction. Tune into Mission Ready Men as we examine our culture through the prism of biblical truths, teachings, and how to apply them in our daily lives. Prepare to step up, stand out, and step into your role as a man, as ordained by God. That's Mission Ready Men, hosted by Earl Jackson, coming this November on the SHR Media Network. And get mission ready.
Want to make an immediate difference in the life of a critically ill child? You have the ability to do that right now. Make a donation to Dream Makers for Life, the organization that restores dreams to seriously ill children and their families. You can sponsor a dream pack for a child, which contains a clear PVC backpack, a dry erase board adventure coloring book, a journal, and dry erase markers to inspire a critically ill child to envision a future adventure and hope. Want to become a dream maker for life yourself? Go to dreamforlife.org. That's dreamforlife.org. Help a child. Help a family. There is always hope.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
The first half hour is gone. I am BZ. This is Jersey Joe, who is on the show tonight. Thanks to Jersey Joe for being here. Now, as you can see, I'm scrolling down below that the phone lines are open. And there's a very specific reason for that. I was looking at, and Unleashed Jeremy Hansen is in the chat. And I asked him to be on the show tonight, and he said, we lost power, and I'm not sure whether that's going to continue or not. So the reason I've got the phone number down below is if you have the time and you are so motivated, Jeremy Hansen, if you could call in at that number, I'd like to find out a little about what happened. Are you guys okay? Is your family okay? What happened around in the neighborhood? So if you are so interested, could you give us a blast? Because I've got my phone over here ready to go and to pick up. I'd like to hear if you could elucidate about what happened over there, because that is that something that customarily happens around this time of year, that kind of thing. So that's 916-835-3329. And as he is considering whether or not you may not even have power, you may not even have the ability, your cell phone may be dying. You're in chat right now, but that's no guarantee that you have the ability to continue charging your phone or your tablet or anything like that. So if you have that present ability, that would be great. Here's another story that I said I was going to go into. Damn, 35 minutes done in the hour. 53 people watching live right now. Thanks to every one of you. This was so weird. And people are saying at this point, we don't know how this happened. This is from Zero Hedge, but it's come from any number of sources in the news in Europe. 6 days ago, the media celebrated a significant milestone. The country of Spain's national grid operated entirely for the first time on renewable energy during a weekday. And so on Monday, April, I had to look close, 28th, dumb shit, that was yesterday. Local time, the lights went out across Spain and Portugal and parts of France. So let's see if I can play this. Residents in Spain, Portugal, France, and Belgium report major outages. Airports and subways shut down. Communications networks hit. Madrid's Barajas Airport is out of service. El Mundo reports no official cause confirmed yet, I should say. Chaos unfolds. Let me see if I can play these videos for you right now. Here's one. Okay, let's choose one. Let's play Video Bingo.
La estación está con el alumbrado de emergencia y no parece haber una gran solución a la
Of course it's in Spanish, comma, dummy. Lights are out, so traffic is crap. People are affected in airports. No lights. And the trains, they are not running.
No choo-choo.
No trains. So the funny thing about this is funny, weird, not funny, haha. Oh, okay. Jeremy Hansen wanted to know if I could put the number in the chat. Okay, there we go. And
I popped it in already.
Reaver popped it in chat there. So if you didn't see it already, then it's up on the screen. I'm sticking this in here because my understanding is that it already affected any number of, I believe, and I had heard references to the fact that, oh, here we go. Un momento. Por favore. And Jeremy Hansen, are you there, sir?
I'm here. How are you?
Okay, great. Thank you very much for calling. You're a cool cat, and when things like this happen, I want to make sure that I touch base with you. And could you, and like a moron, I should have had a photograph of you or something like that up, but sadly I do not. So Jeremy Hansen, what the hell happened to you guys? Now, you are in Missouri, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Springfield area. Yeah. And I was sitting out here this morning having my coffee, and it was beautiful. And within about 10 minutes, we went from that to like 95-mile-per-hour winds. Then that in Missouri, it's really weird. We do get storms that come in like bang, and then they're gone. But this one lasted about a half hour. And they said that we had cluster tornadoes here in Springfield, and pretty much from here to almost to St. Louis, there was cluster tornadoes everywhere.
I looked at your now. When you're on Facebook, folks, there's no guarantee, or even X, Twitter, there's no guarantee that I'm going to get the feeds from the people that I have friended, so to speak. But in terms of just scrolling around, I came across your Facebook page, and that's why I was concerned, because now you've got photos on your Facebook page of all sorts of damage. And I was unsure if that was in your house or in the neighborhood. And maybe you could let me and the other people know if you're okay, that's your house, that's damage that you guys suffered.
No, the only real problem I had, it ripped the screens out of my house, and then a piece of fascia over the garage it ripped off. But some of my neighbors had it much worse. Like, I put a picture of a big tree down. That was my neighbor's house. Literally, I'm on my back porch right now, and the next block over from me still doesn't have power.
Oh, crap.
So earlier they sent me a text that said 50,000 people without power. And then literally while I was sitting in the show, my lights came back on, and they sent me another one that said 41,000 still without power. So I got lucky. I was in the 9,000 that do, but they're saying that it might take till Sunday or Monday to get power restored.
Sunday or Monday to get power restored to you, and it's only Tuesday.
Right. Now, I got power, but like I said, the very next block over doesn't. Because it wasn't like one tree fell over a power line. There's probably 1,000 trees that fell on power lines here today. People's cars, people's houses. We went out and helped some people get some stuff so they could get in their door and, stuff like that. But the problem is in Springfield, there's a very large elderly population.
Okay.
And they really, really, a lot of them have breathing machines and oxygen. And
right.
So the first responders, the first thing they do is they go find those people. But they called counties away. They called tree companies and everything else to come up and start sawing up trees. It's amazing. So far, I haven't heard of any deaths. So that's pretty awesome. But the devastation is pretty high up there.
Now, have you gone through something like this before, through a tornado before, or maybe a series of tornadoes that's affected your house or your apartment domicile, your family before?
Yeah, I had a barn taken down here when we first moved here. And like I said, it's very weird the way the storms come in here. I'm originally from Wisconsin, so storms there, they come in, they're coming, and then they'll stay for 4 or 5 hours. Here, you'll have a storm, just a vicious storm come in, and 10 minutes later, it's sunny again. And let's see, 6 years ago now, we had went swimming, actually, and we came home, and I saw a thundercloud, and the thunder had just got to us, and I got struck by lightning.
That's right. I made a meme for you getting struck by lightning about 2 or 3 years ago. Oh my God. Okay. Stop. Okay. The rest of the show can wait. I never spoke to you about this. What the hell is it like to be struck by lightning? Folks, we're talking to Jeremy Hansen of Unleashed Jeremy Hansen. He has his own podcast. And before he goes, I want to make sure that he tells us about his podcast. So, Jeremy Hansen, holy mother of God, what is it like to be struck by lightning?
Okay.
And live.
It's really, really weird because you know how they say right before you die, everything slows down?
Yes, it does have a tendency to slow down.
It was so weird. I remember looking at my arms because what happened to me was lightning struck and I was holding on to the Yukon door. And I remember it in like slow motion where I saw light, and then I looked at my arm, I was kind of looking at my arm anyways, and I watched all the hair in my arm stand up. And then bam, and it hit you almost like you got hit in the back of the head with a sledgehammer. And where I was standing, there was about a 30-inch circle where it had burnt all the grass, and it went out my heels. And literally it just burnt and it hurt. Eventually, like 3 months later, I had a heart attack, and they said that was from the lightning. So the bottom left chamber of my heart doesn't work anymore. but I get to say that lightning couldn't take me out.
Okay. Number one, that's terrible, especially with regard to the heart, but I get it. That amount of voltage going through your literal body. I know a little bit about locomotives, and there's a difference between voltage and amperage. And amps are real killers. Usually the doors on freight locomotives, EMDGE, say caution 400 amps. And essentially that's a shit ton of amps. Having said that, I can also say, and I don't know if you did any research post being struck, but generally when lightning enters an object, in your case, your body, there is an entrance point and an exit point. And when you were struck, you were standing on the ground?
I was standing on the ground. Yep. And I had water shoes on.
Water shoes, what, like Keens or something like that?
Yeah, it was
Flops?
something like it was whatever Walmart stuff was at that time. And from my pointer finger on my left hand, like I said, I was holding on to my Yukon. There was a black mark that went all the way probably about 10 inches up my arm. And then both my heels were black and my skin was split on the bottom of my heels.
Okay, that's kind of where I was going with this. 57 people watching live right now. Thanks to all those people. Did you do, I'm going somewhere with this. Did you do any research after being hit by lightning and or look at photos or reference instances of other people being struck by lightning?
No, not really. I mean, I have my own photo of where the grass was. I didn't really want to visit, and I'll tell you why. I had just grabbed my daughter, and she was 3 at the time, and set her down and turned around to shut the car door, and that's when it happened. And I always think to myself, oh my God, what would have happened if she would have been, if I still would have been holding on to her. But to this day, she remembers that because it is, the lightning's bad, but the thunder right there, I mean, because there's no waiting. The thunder hits the same time the lightning does.
See, and that's where I was going. In the late 60s, early 70s, because Dad was in the Air Force, we moved to Ohio, to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And I had never experienced rain and thunderstorms like they had in Ohio, because in California, always spell it with a K, that shit just primarily doesn't exist unless you're way up in the mountains. But I can recall very distinctly that I've seen photographs of people being struck by lightning, say at the top of the head, or as you indicated, any extended arms, legs, and there's an entry and there's an exit. And I had remembered seeing, when you told your tale, of people that during the exit of the lightning, their feet were blown off, their ankles were blown off, their legs were split, and or it smoked them entirely. And the point being, although sorry for being so damn descriptive, but someone was watching out for you that day, sir.
100%. And it's so weird. Like I said, Missouri, when you get these storms, I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, there was the Branson ducks, which are like boats from World War II that can go on water and on road.
Okay.
They're amphibious vehicles, and they went out, and I think 24 people drowned because we had one of those storms. It came in, and they say, well, they warned them that there could be storms. Well, in Missouri, you get that almost every day, like there could be a storm. So, they were out doing their thing, and, Lake Taneycomo down there, I think they had like 5-foot white caps on that little tiny lake, and it submerged those things. And I think it was 24 people drowned.
Okay. The thing you're talking about, is it like this? I don't know if you can see or if you're watching, but if you are watching and not just listening, up on the screen is what is called the DUKW, an amphibious truck, which is
Yep,
a workhorse for ferrying troops and supplies around during World War II. So, God, having displayed that, bottom line is at this point, by the way, 70 people watching live right now. Again, thank you. Thank you. Was it a series of today? Was it a series of storms or tornadoes, or was it just a really big wind?
I thought it was just a really big wind. I got about a 80-foot oak tree in the back of my home, and it was bending where I could see from the window. So a third of the way up, it was bending about 8 foot one way.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it was. I thought for sure that was going to go, and it didn't. A bunch of branches broke off and blew off, but the main part of the tree stayed. But since then, they said that we had cluster tornadoes where they'll go down, come up, go down, come up. And usually cluster tornadoes are between 90 miles per hour and 150 miles per hour. But you look at some of these, there's a guy that had like a new F-250, and he had it parked next to a big oak tree, and the whole oak tree flipped up, and the roots lifted the truck in the air, and the truck's probably, 18, 20 feet in the air right now. There's pictures of that out there. So yeah, it's pretty bad. I had pieces of grass stuck in my vinyl siding on the house, if that'll tell you anything.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't have any windows blow out. My neighbors did. This poor kid, there was a 16-year-old kid that was homesick, kitty corner from me at my neighbor's, and he came running over it like a macho 16-year-old kid, and he's like, "I'm scared. Can I come in?" I was like, "Absolutely."
Yeah, you bet. Come on in, my friend.
I hate to put it like this, but that's kind of a normal day in Florida for us. I mean, that happens during the summertime, during storm season. It's just anytime you can get tornadoes just ripping through, and the lightning here. I live in the lightning capital of the United States. The thunder we get, I've never heard before until I moved down here. Holy shit, did that scare the crap out of me a couple of times.
Well, that was my point. And Jeremy Hansen, to hear, maybe you can describe it again, but in Ohio, we were in a townhouse, and directly behind the townhouse was a little path that I had a little mini bike, and we'd ride around the complex and that. Then there was a berm. Over the berm was a crusty old crappy railroad, and then probably 60 feet from the window, I had a bedroom in the back, was a tree. And as I was watching a train roll slowly by from Penn Central back in Ohio, I mean, I was blinded. That tree got struck by lightning in front of my face. And like you said, Jeremy Hansen, it wasn't like flash and then kaboom. Oh, fuck to the no. It was kaboom, splinter, tree going everywhere, that I wasn't just absolutely smothered with shards of ripped glass, that window didn't blow out in my bedroom in the back. I was shocked to this day. I don't think I'd heard anything that loud, that bright in front of my face before. And to think then, Jeremy Hansen, that you experienced it and there was no delay. Did you lose hearing? Is your hearing impacted from that, for example?
I think it is. I got Meniere's disease and Lyme, so my hearing wasn't that good anyways. But I'm pretty sure it is or was affected then. It didn't help me with my selective hearing with my wife at all. I can tell you that.
Oh, darn.
But we sit in a really weird place here. I'm right on the edge of the Ozark Mountains, and right north of Springfield here, there's some plateau, they call it. And what happens is like in February here, we can get warm rain because the hurricanes that hit Florida, the Dragon's Tail comes up and it hits the jet stream in Oklahoma almost almost due west of us. And then it comes this way, and that's why we get so many tornadoes here, like Joplin areas in the same way I am. It just sits there, and the cold converges with the warm. And what happens when they get real bad is they'll get to like Tulsa, and a low pressure system will set in, and these two meet, and they just sit there and they build and build and build. And then finally something breaks, and it's like a slingshot. It pushes it over us, and you get those, like he was saying, in Florida, you get these little cluster tornadoes and these super furious storms that happen for 10 minutes and then it's over.
Wow. So basically you guys are all right. You're cool. You do have some damage to the house. Your family's okay. Nobody was struck. You have power. Power is missing from the next street over. Those guys might be kind of screwed for a while. SCROOD. So thanks for coming in and telling us about this. But before I go, because I have to get you back on the show sometime when you're not in the middle of being struck by lightning or affected by thunderstorms, oh geez. Tell us about your show, your podcast before you go, if you would please, Jeremy Hansen.
Yeah, I actually have 3 podcasts. One's the Jeremy Hansen podcast. That's all about business. It's kind of boring unless you're an entrepreneur. It's on Apple Podcasts, pretty much everywhere. Then I have Unleash 101, and that's where I try to be busy. I talk about politics and what pisses me off, and what normal Americans should be thinking. And then I have Morning Crankers, which is a morning comedy podcast. And again, it's in the same places. It's everywhere you can listen to a good podcast. But, we have a lot of fun, and each one of them is kind of different. So it keeps me really, really busy.
So let me ask a final question before you zap off. And again, sir, thank you, Jeremy Hansen, for your time, for calling in. I appreciate it. Are you doing a show? Am I getting that you're doing a show every day?
I do the Jeremy Hansen podcast 3 times a week. I do Unleash 101 2 times a week. And I do Morning Crankers every single day, Monday through Friday.
Okay. So in other words, if I'm hearing you right, you've got a lot of spare time.
Yeah. I wish. I always want to do more. You know what it's like. You want people to listen because what you're saying is important. And, we try to make it fun and we try to make it very informational. But, the powers that be, it's easier today than it was, 6-7 years ago. But it's still not easy to reach the people and for them to listen, So, that's why I try really hard. First thing I do when I come on your show, I like your show and I share your show. Simply because I know how much effort you put into it and I love the show. And if everybody did that to, Jersey Joe's show and your show, it would strengthen the conservative community so much. And that's what I try to do, even with my business podcast, is let's get back to family. Let's get back to real America. Let's get back to making some money and a bright future. And I think that's what we all try to do.
Well, fabulous. Thank you so kindly, Jeremy Hansen. God bless you. Take care. Take care of your family. And thanks for calling in and taking the time, sir.
Thank you much. Bye-bye.
Ciao. That was Jeremy Hansen. I've got about 1 more minute. And I believe Rick Robinson is up. There he is. He'll be here shortly after the top of the hour. So, oh, no, he won't be here in the top of the hour. He is here with a fear of beer or something to that effect, Senator. So when we come back, we're going to take a break. As Jethro Tull had a song many years ago, which was spelled Piobroch, and people thought it was Pibroch, that it was to be pronounced Pibroch, but it wasn't to be pronounced Pibroch. Stop. Go back. Damn it. Where's my producer? Would you stop starting stuff when I'm in the middle of speaking? That's just damn rude. But it was Piobroch, pronounced Pibroch, except I found out, no, it's pronounced P-break.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Edge of Liberty. Join me right here on the SHR Media Network every Monday and Friday, 12 on the Pacific, 3 on the East Coast. On this show, we'll discuss news, politics, the government, how cranky we are about the government, and more. If you want to hear hard talk, good interviews, sarcasm, bad jokes, and oh God, that really is me in a nutshell. Either way, check me out right here on the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Friday, 12 Pacific, 3 on the East, on the SHR Media Network.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? Then check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com. 7armors.com. Faithful, vigilant, steadfast, fashion.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
The first hour, she is in the can. The can has been opened, and the show was right into the can. Now, it did not go into my mug, bub, because there's certain special liquid which lives in this very special mug. Thanks to everyone for being here tonight. Let's bring to the surface and emerge like the tar pit that of conservative radio. It's Jersey Joe. It's Licky Robinson. And I have to say to all of those, especially Licky Robinson, I love you, dog. I love you, long time GI. 82 people watching live right now. Thanks to everyone for being here. The theme of tonight's show is something remarkably similar, but not exactly like Trump's first 100 days. And because I happen to listen to your show today, Rick had a number of observations about the first 100 days. And it's like, what I like to do is having actual live human beings right here to conduct a tete-a-tete with is always wondrous, because otherwise it's just me, myself, and some articles, and also like videos that I'm going to play of this ancient piece of shit. So any thoughts in some kind of, I mean, honest to God, it took you darn near 3 hours, and you didn't, and I won't, and you didn't really hit upon
I didn't make a dent.
Yeah, none of us are going to end up making a dent in terms of what has actually happened, how we have been smacked upside the face, like a bad weighty herring about the first 100 days of Trump 47. And I think you have said, if I'm not mistaken, Licky Robinson, that, and correct me if I have this wrong, and I am of a Mayan, M-I-E-N, not mind, folks. Like I can't pronounce it. Okay, that without, maybe I'm paraphrasing incorrectly. Without a Carter, we wouldn't have gotten a Reagan.
Exactly.
And without, we may have dodged a huge fuck up. Without a 45, we wouldn't have gotten a 47, because I think things would have been markedly different if Trump had been 45 and then 46. And I don't think he would have pulled the same complement of individuals in 47 in 46. God, that sounds complicated, but
it's really not, though. To answer your question, though, you're 1,000% right. Two things happened. One, when Trump won the first time, nobody expected him to. So that actually saved America the first time, because everybody seems to forget that this whole Agenda 2035 thing used to be Agenda 21. There was a reason they started trying really hard to ramp all this stuff up under Obama, because they were doing everything they could to keep their timetable. When they lost and Hillary Clinton was not enthroned, then they lost it. And that's when you started seeing, and that's why we're finding all these things out about all the things the CIA and the FBI were trying to do to derail the campaign, all the things that are coming out about COVID and everything else. That was because they were doing everything they could to desperately try to keep that agenda on track. Well, now it's Agenda 2034, and they're trying just as hard now, because every time Trump gets a hold of everything again, he starts trying to pull everything away from that mess, and that they can't have that. But you're exactly right. And I said this today. It was almost like Providence that he lost, because we had Trump.
Yeah.
And everybody thought Trump was terrible. So we got this halftime show that was a million times worse. Now we've got Trump back again. And I've said this before. They may have cheated to make 20 and 21 turn out the way that it did. And I'm still 1,000% sure that they did. I don't give a shit what YouTube says about it, because the numbers are there now. If you look and you see, if you look at 16, 20, and 24, just those three, the only one that stands out like a giant middle finger is 20, because the numbers for everything else are way down here and 20's way up here. Where'd those other people come from? We're still literally trying to stop Hitler, yes? So where are those people that literally rose up to stop Hitler in 20 that didn't show up in 24? That's the only anecdotal evidence that I need. But if he had won, if they hadn't cheated and he had won, he would have been locked in, lame duck, and not been able to do anything, because he lost everything else on the way out the door.
Well, the other thing I find interesting is that being 45, and you and I and Joe have had this discussion before, and everyone says, I wear the hat, therefore I must love him. Well, I love certain aspects of him, but he made a big series of huge mistakes as 45. He's making a ton of mistakes as 47. There is no perfect president that will have the exact same philosophy that I do. And yet I would submit that in betweenst, did I just make up a word? In betweenst 45 and 47, watching the world disintegrate under 46, I think that made him cognizant of a great deal of things that he needed to do, if for no other reason that truly he is a lame duck right now. And even then, let me go back to you, Rick Robinson, because one of the things that you pointed out in your show this morning is that, you had some time in between 45 and November 5th of last year, and you could have done some things. Can you expand on that, Rick Robinson?
Well, so yeah, this is my gripe to Congress, and I still submit to you this day that a lot of the people that are supposedly on his own side in Congress aren't actually on his side. They're still looking out for themselves. Because here's the thing. We have told Republicans over and over and over again, those of us of conservative ilk, that we want single item bills, that we want short bills, that we're tired of 2,000-page monstrosities that they put up for 2 days, and then they say, oh, we got to pass it to find out what's in it. No, the fuck we do not. So, but that's the thing. So November 5th, to January 21st is how long? We had Congress at least sworn in to the point where they could start. I mean, I know they can't really do anything officially until they get a speaker, but that didn't take as long as anybody thought it was going to do either. But the whole thing is they knew they had a majority, even if it was down to one for quite some time. They knew they had a majority in the House. They knew they had a majority in the Senate. They should have already been working together behind the scenes to put together single item bills. So day one after he was sworn in, instead of this, what did he sign? Like 30, 40 executive orders within like the first 4 hours that he was sworn in. They could have had 40 single item bills, basically codifying everything that he already wanted to do by executive order, or at least trying to by the time he was sworn in. And the thing about it is, and this is one of the things that I really wish the Republicans would pick up on that the Democrats are not afraid to do. They don't give a shit if it can't get past one part of the government or the other. They just want their side to see, hey, we're trying to fight with everything that we have. You know what? That's all we've ever asked from our side too. I understand that you may not be able to get the 60 vote thresholds. You know what? Prove that to the American people, though, because then you're going to be more likely to pick up enough votes in the Senate where you can get past the 60 vote threshold when they actually can see who the obstructionists are. But if you don't show them who the obstructionists are and you just throw your hands up to the American people, well, we can't do it because we can't get past the threshold. You know what? Fucking prove that you can. Maybe some Democrats would finally have enough backbone if you guys would actually start trying to put up single item bills that everybody could understand. And there's no way for them to say, well, if you look at page 3,472, you can see that this is all a giant hornswoggle by the Republicans and they really just want to strip everything out of Social Security. You know what? That would stop all that bullshit too, because everything's 4, 5, 6 pages long, written in fairly plain English instead of this weird hybrid between Latin and English and law speak that you guys want to use, because it's retarded. We know our education system sucks. Hell, in my state, the average Oklahoman cannot read past 6 months into the 4th grade year in Oklahoma. And I used to work for the Department of Human Services on contract at the University of Oklahoma. One of the first things that I said as soon as they put me in a position where I was able to start trying to affect policy is let's start sending out our letters out in English so the people that we're trying to help can understand them. Well, they have to be approved by lawyers. Why? Can we not approve them by lawyers first and then translate them into English? Why do we need 4,000, 5,000 page bills through Congress unless you're trying to hide things from us? This is my problem with both sides, because that's the only reason you guys keep trying to do these cramnibus bullshit things, is because you are trying to make sure that we can't see what one hand is doing versus the other. And I, as an American taxpayer and an American voter and somebody who's been involved in politics since I was in high school, am tired of your bullshit all the way around.
The other part of that is that Trump has the bully pulpit. Now, to me, to my way of thinking, he's used the bully pulpit fairly well, but it can still be used much more effectively, in my opinion. And let me see if I get this right. Yes. And you, Rick Robinson, have said something similar to, okay, why don't we? Because, and this is frustrating in terms of me for Trump. You have the bully pulpit. You're not a Democrat. You're not really a Republican. I mean, you used to donate to both sides of the aisle. You know, that's not any kind of shameless thing. It's just true. If you're a business dude, then you're not taking any particular stance. And he used to be loved by Democrats. But what's wrong with pointing big, old, hanging, hairy fingers at the rhino pieces of shit that are not going along, that are being obstructionists, and naming and shaming? Since you sit right there, you're not necessarily hooked to the Republicans and their culture. You could get in there and name names and shame them and say, you and you and you. And by the way, FWIP, here's the list of all the rhino assholes and cucks that need to come around to our way of thinking. Why?
I don't know the answer to that question, because this is the one thing that has now disappointed me with Trump in both of his terms. Because I'll be honest, I did not vote for him in his first term. I voted for him in 20. I voted for him again in 24. But I was diametrically opposed to him winning because I bought into a lot of the media hype from the folks that I had respected that I didn't realize were starting to change tacks, so to speak, or changing sides. I mean, like Bolton's mustache, because everybody knows that dude's not really the one talking. There's an alien in his mustache controlling the meat suit. But yeah, I mean, he was somebody. I met him in 2015 at SRLC 15. G, the conservative curmudgeon, who's done a show with me almost from within like a year of my a couple years of my launch, and it's been with me ever since. Actually drove up from Alabama and covered the event with me, and he was the one that arranged that interview. So I, of course, got to ask a question here and there, but I was mainly, recording the stuff, etc. And I greatly respected the man. He actually talked to us for a few minutes before and a few minutes after. And then when Trump hit the scene and all of a sudden he was just, kind of wishy-washy on the whole thing. And now I'm just watching him. But I watched that happen with so many people that I used to respect. People that were really high up in the Tea Party when I was just really starting to cut my teeth on social media and stuff that are now raging liberal nut bars. And I'm like, what the hell happened to you? But Trump has that effect on everybody. But what I was getting to a second ago before I was I did not like his bull in the China shop approach, but I started to understand that that's pretty much what we need to be able to fix our government. We have to break it to be able to fix it. That's how bad it's gotten. That's pretty much where we are. And it's been that way for a while. It is so overbloated and so overgrown that we really do have to just kind of break it and not necessarily completely start over, but break it enough that we can basically reset the bones. Like at this point, we were trying to heal it after the Civil War and after World War II. And there were some bad bone sets. So now we've got to go in, break some bones, fix the cast, and get them fixed right. That's pretty much where we are. But the thing about it is, he has this bull in the China shop approach with everyone except for the people in his own party. I mean, half the reason that I believe that Canada lost an election was because Donald Trump didn't know when to let go of the 51st state joke. I'm not blaming Donald Trump for it because Canada still voted for whatever the hell Canada was going to vote for. But if not for him pushing so hard over and over and over again about Canada's going to be our 51st state, there's a chance there may have been somebody less liberal in America's attic today ruling everything. Do I blame Trump for it completely? No. But I do think that the tariffs on Canada, even though I understand them, I think that pissed off a lot of Canadians. And from some Canadian friends that I know, all the old people were terrified of Trump after the tariffs and after the whole we're going to annex Canada thing. So I think that may have pushed Canada into a different version of populism. And this is why populism can kind of be dangerous, because there are different varieties of populism. You have communist populism. You have capitalist populism. Whichever one's getting the most traction is the one that's going to be run with in a specific area. And Canada is choosing the other side of populism because now their new prime minister is going to, everything to do with climate change is going to be on everything that I try to do while I'm prime minister. Well, I hope Canada liked having a nice run because you're officially communist now.
And that's the sad thing. As a matter of fact, this morning you had discussed that with regard to Canada and Trump. And I understand why Trump does that. And I should know by now. That's Trump's MO. Okay. I grok that concept. I actually do. But they've, in terms of turning their noses up at someone who's been trolling, they have cut off their nose literally to spite their face. I have more information that I'm going to go into this coming Thursday's show. And okay, I get it. That's funny. Ha ha. Maybe he was serious. I don't think he was. I think it was the standard Mark I, Model I Trump trolling. But the people that decided that they were going to rebel against, and let me ask you this, Jersey Joe and or Ricky, and I'm going to fuck up his name because that's what I do here. Pierre Poilievre. I had watched some very interesting videos on him. He seemed to understand Trump, he had some great rhetorical comebacks to a lot of Canadian journalists. He seemed like a really smart, kind of a whip smart guy, thinks quickly, on his feet, but he was resolutely crushed when he didn't need to be. And in my estimation, like I'm any great shakes on Canadian politics. No, he would have done the Canadians much finer, but I concur with you in terms of this was a troll. This was a troll. I can't think of anything more about it. I'm in Idaho, directly above Idaho. I'm 98 miles from the Canadian border. That's how far north I am in Idaho. And I'm directly below Alberta. Now, Alberta and Quebec have historically been at loggerheads, and they're going to be super pissed off. And I know a couple of people up there who are super pissed off right now that this shitstick, Mark Carney, got in, because it's like 35 seconds in, and just like you said, Rick, it's all about climate change, climate change, climate change.
But when you also take a look at it with that loss, it pushed the signatures on the petition for Alberta. I think it's Alberta to secede from Canada. It's now going to go to a vote. They got enough signatures after the vote went through.
Yeah, I actually a couple of guys I do a Tuesday night show on another channel with are actually from Canada, and they were talking about it tonight, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm just going to move to Alberta and wait for them to secede."
Yeah, and if that, let's say, hypothetical, it does happen. I'm not an expert on what goes on in Canada, but from what I've read, a lot of the money that comes in for Canada comes in through Alberta because of the oil fields, and if Canada loses that, that's going to hurt them very badly.
Well, Alberta,
blame Canada,
is kind of like the Texas of the United States, except minus all the muzzies. It's a resource-rich province with people that are salt of the earth, with people that have wonderful forests, wonderful resources. That is the source from the Keystone XL pipeline, from which we could have had a running current of great and wonderful black gold Texas tea down to Texas, down to the chemical coast, and helped to secure energy independence for both Canada and the United States of America. But no, that was not to be, according to 46. But they have the wealth. And Quebec, I think, to a degree realizes that, or am I speaking way out of church, Rick?
No. From what I'm hearing from my Canadian friends, you are not that far afield, and they do believe that they actually could pressure Quebec, especially now, because it's like Jersey just said. There's been a signature petition going around now for a while to get to basically say screw it, we're out of here. And from what I hear, ever since the election results have been announced, the signatures have gone up quite a bit. So it remains to be seen. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily have wanted to take all of Canada as a single state anyway, because there's way too many libs.
We would have California on our hands.
Well, and not only that, we've had other people waiting in line for a while. So, I mean, if we're going to do anything, if we're going to start talking about statehood, we need to be talking about some of the other folks that have been here for a while. Give them territorial status, though, because at least then they can, put people in the house that can't do anything. So it'd be no different than how Canada works for them now. So,
well, one thing that I know that in terms of a territory we cannot take into the United States is Guam, because they're on sort of a swivel axle kind of thing, and they've been known to tip over. So thank God we're not going to go to Guam. Wait a minute, producer. You son of a... Where is it? Come on. Thank you. And I think this is correct also. You touched on this. You touched on this. 205 people listening live right now. You touched on this, Rick Robinson, earlier in your show. And my translation was something similar to, we're talking about Trump's first 100 days. One of the biggest things that he did, that he pulled off under 45 and is continuing to do so under 47, is the sheets and the curtains have been ripped down so that we're finally beginning to understand, in my estimation, the massive amounts of grift and corruption and fraud and undermining and what I call the literal pissing away of all of our hard-earned American taxpayer dollars to everyone but us. It's absolutely abjectly raw manipulation of us to the benefit of everyone else. What I call the DLG, Democrats, leftists, and globalists. And what they've been doing all this time, and before, of course, obviously, insisting, corrupting, forcing schemes upon us, forcing systems, unnecessary and otherwise, upon us, and programs to ensure that we never know, buried, we'll never find out, except that now we're starting to find out. And then, as you indicate, Rick, that's why we have these massive 300, 500, 1,000 page bills that we just need to pass, because those are perfect locales in which to secrete shit that no one will ever see until it's way too fucking late.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the same thing with the ACA. I mean, how many of us were told how much better life was going to be after the ACA, and your medical coverages were going to be cheaper, your insurance was going to be cheaper, but it was going to be better. I don't know about you guys, but I was one of those rare people that had, a wife with a good job. I had a decent job with good benefits. So for a while, I had what the Obama folks started calling Cadillac plans. I didn't have one, I had two, because my wife's work had spousal coverage. So I could go in and anything I needed to get done, as soon as they figured out I had two insurances, they were like, whatever it was just like gold card treatment, man. They would do anything. I mean, sometimes they ran tests just for the sake of running tests because they knew my insurance would pay for it. And and that's not about trying to brag or anything else. That's just explaining that, this whole idea that healthcare is a right. That's nowhere in the Constitution. Somebody please explain to me where that idea came from. Well, you have to understand, Rick, being in good health is part of being able to chase life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That is probably one of the first sellouts within the Constitution, though, because, I'll be launching another podcast that'll be airing and it's going to be a short one, but probably about once every 2 weeks. It's kind of a little kind of Schoolhouse Rock meets Rick Robinson kind of thing. It's going to be called Mr. Robinson's Cul-de-sac.
And you're going to be explaining things, I guess.
Yeah, explaining like history, stuff like that. Because there's something that nobody knows about the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know what happiness used to be before they decided they didn't want the South to be able to use it as a tool to hang on to slavery? It was supposed to be life, liberty, and the pursuit of property.
I was about to say 6 foot blonde, well endowed.
That was one of the biggest things about freedom when they were framing the Constitution and all that stuff, was being able to own property, because most of them weren't, except for the nobles that had come over here, weren't allowed to own property before. So it wasn't about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It was about life, liberty, and the pursuit of property. But they compromised and changed it to the pursuit of happiness because they didn't want the slave owners to be like, well, they're my property, so you're telling me I have a right to own them. So they changed the word. That one word changes almost everything about what our country stood for.
It certainly does.
Because if we were still fighting for the rights to own property, we wouldn't be okay with our government taxing us on our property until the day we die.
And the conflict between us and that philosophy, between socialism, then ramping up to communism, where you can say, property, bye-bye, didn't like you.
You will own nothing and you will like it.
You can have, now the Soviets can have their own wonderful dacha on the shores, but you will own absolutely nothing. And now 225, what do I got? Oh, wrong thing. Up here. There we go. Up there. That's tough to figure out. I'm not smart. 225 people watching live. So thanks to everybody here. By the way, just to throw this in, as you were saying, folks, if you have not read Frederick Basquiat, I would highly recommend it because he has a few things to say about property. And see, like you've indicated, these are shows you're doing sort of your own version of PragerU, which started out as trying to explain government. Now it tries to explain everything. But I think a show based upon knowledge, trying to explain to people how their actual government is supposed to work. Oh my God, Rick, is that ever past being necessary?
If anything, it's more necessary now than it's ever been, because here's the thing, and I've been saying this for a long time. I am probably from the tail end of the last generation that even had the thought of any type of critical thinking foisted upon them by the education system. Yeah. Because it was changing as I was coming up. And it's weird because it was different depending on what part of the country that I lived in. Because in fifth grade when we moved, I was still learning history here in Oklahoma. Well, we moved to Seattle or the Seattle area for sixth grade, and I spent sixth and seventh grade there, and then eighth grade in a different part of Washington before we moved all the way across the country in ninth grade over to Delaware, and then back to Oklahoma for my sophomore year. But it was weird because I got to the Washington schools, and they weren't teaching anything remotely like history. They were teaching social studies.
And that's why, I wish that a very good friend of mine who now he was in the military and the VA has screwed him over, and he has some really serious medical issues with him right now. Michael Jones, the underground professor. Oh my God, do I wish that I could ever tap his knowledge in terms of the Constitution. And with that, folks, I'm BZ. That is Jersey Joe, and Rick Robinson will be right back. I'm pretty sure.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to River of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and full discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch River of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being, and in the good that comes from exercising these rights well. The founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high-quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this. You rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic woman who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. CarryGirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
The final 35 minutes right now in BZ's Saloon. Jersey Joe added to the stage. Rick Robinson added to the stage. And welcome, one and all, 225 people watching live right now. Thanks to all of you. You are wondrous and wonderful and wonderfully wondrous in a wonderful, wondrous kind of way. Wondrously, wonder-if-ingly, or words to that effect, Senator. So thanks for being here. I put all these things in here, and I if there's one thing that I'm terrible at is managing my own show, because as Rick knows, as Jersey Joe knows, you gotta keep up with what people are saying. Hell, I have to keep up with what I'm saying. That's a tough fucking thing to do in the first place.
What'd
Then
you
you have
say?
to manage what?
Huh?
Then you have to Then you have to manage all the other aspects and the sound and the video and all of that, and it's tough. Then you have to stuff it into a blivet, which is essentially 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag, because I only have 2 hours to do this that I'm allotted, because then my brain runs out of words at the end of 2 hours. And Rick manages to do a 3-hour show 4 days a week, Tuesday through Friday, which in and of itself is rather amazing. But we're talking about 100 days, and we're also talking about, are we talking about Chucky?
Well, this week, President Trump marks 100 days as president. It's been 100 days of hell for American families, for our economy, and for our democracy.
We're not a democracy.
Donald Trump's second term has been the worst.
Okay, let me stop right there. Rick, you said we're not a democracy. Let's see. As Professor Michael Jones used to say, we are a constitutionally federated republic. And let me guess. Here, let me sit my fat ass in this chair and move it around a little bit, and then make this question to you down there, Rick Robinson. My guess would be probably one of your very first shows will be remarkably similar to a democracy versus a republic. And is it something we can keep, or am I way the fuck off?
Oh, no, that's pretty much where I'm starting.
Because so many people like this idiot don't know.
Start of any president in modern times. He now has the lowest approvals any president has seen through his first 100 days.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, does he know? Does he really? Sorry, go ahead, Jersey.
Sorry about that. Hey, the same polls that told us Hillary was going to win and Kamala was going to win is telling us his numbers are down.
Yeah, and it's funny you should mention that. And Rick, was that where you were going to go, somewhere kind of similar to that right now?
Well, yeah. I mean, let's not forget right now his entire party has an approval rating of 21%.
Yep, that too.
So, however bad Trump is polling, even if you believe the data, he's still polling better than they are.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think we've heard enough of Schumer, because once you mentioned polling and data, I hope it wouldn't shock anybody if I had a story similar to this, which is written by John Solomon.
Let me jump in there real quick, BZ, because also
Sure.
I saw not too long ago for the Democrat leadership, they're at 25% approval.
And you say that lovingly with air quotes. Leadership.
Yeah.
Leadership.
Please don't ever change Democrats. Please don't.
Yeah.
No.
And I am going to do oh God, I would love to have you guys back for I'm going to do a show about 2026. I may have a few things or a few thoughts about 2026. Here's John Solomon. I think he worked for the Wall Street Journal or something like that, and he got tired with their bullshit, and then he created his own site, Just the News. And this is an article indicating, now we were talking about, little Chucky Schumer was talking about polls and stuff. This article on Just the News, prominent pollster blasts colleagues for skewing Trump's 100-day approval. According to ABC News, Washington Post, Ipsos polls, 55% of Americans say they disapprove of Trump's first 100 days in office, except Big Data Poll Director Richard Barris is blasting fellow pollsters for declaring President Trump's first 100 days in office perceived poorly by voters, suggesting some in the industry were skewing data to reflect their biases. Now, if I found one article, because I'm a fat ancient fuck, but yet even I have fingers riddled with arthritis as they are, and I have a keyboard. Look at that. And with these two things, 10, 12 things, etc., I can access the internet and find things that amazingly they are unable to find. Here's from MRC Newsbusters. TV News assaults second Trump admin with 92% negative coverage. Now, let me ask you, gentlemen, right here, because you're wild and versed in the ways of various political forms of bullshit, I wonder, would the MSNBC, CNN, CNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC have anything to do in terms of their negative coverage, 92% of their negative coverage? I wonder, would that have anything to do with perchance skewing, skewer,
Either
as
word.
opposed to skewing their polls? Anyone have any thoughts, Bueller?
Well, I mean, think about this from this perspective. If our media would actually do their job and just shoot down the middle and just tell people the truth, imagine how much better his approval ratings would be. Because the approval ratings that he has, which depending on where you look is anywhere between like 39 to 46%, I think, depending on the poll that you look at.
Right.
I think the average has him in the mid 40s. Imagine if it wasn't 96% negative news coverage. Because that's what's skewing everything. Because most of these people still get their news from the zombie media, which is insane to me when you think about it. Because there's a reason that I started calling them the zombie media, and it wasn't just to be cute. It was because it was kind of a riff on, and you have it in one of your intro, you have it in your intro, and I have it in one of mine. The riff from They Live when he's like, "I'm here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum." Because I had no idea that movie was actually a documentary. Because that's exactly how everybody behaves now. They sit down in front of this idiot box and they see all these things, and everything that they see is gospel. They don't think for themselves. They don't research it themselves. As soon as it's spoon-fed to them, that is what they believe. And if they don't get their news from anywhere else, then it's all they ever know. And I have gone through this over and over and over again. I have family members who won't even talk to me anymore because I voted for Trump. In Oklahoma, of all places, I have family members that are like, I don't even want to be around you at the holidays anymore because I can't believe you voted for that orange fucker. I'm like, I can't believe that you wanted to vote for her. I mean,
no, it's a two-way trip, and it's an obscene trip. Let me go and show everybody here. Now, you know, and I know that Chuck Schumer, his veracity is absolutely, you cannot not listen to Chuck Schumer because he will always tell you the truth. And he does it in a calm, quiet way that threatens no one at all. Right? Nobody.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch. I want to tell you, Kavanaugh. You have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
And so what would have happened had, for example, anybody else said those exact same words about judges, which are in high contention these days? Here's Keith Olbermann, by the way, saying that now this is 2024. Just a reminder that when these two morally bankrupt anti-American Trump fascists for sale, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, are eventually arrested and put on trial, they will eventually run into a judge. And that was 25, I should say. Here's Olbermann in 24. President Biden should take the SCOTUS cloaking mask of immunity and have Merrick Garland arrest Eileen Cannon. A judge. If they need to make up a charge, haul her in for impersonating a judge. Here's the note that should have been placed on her door. Due to the judge being arrested for violating federal law, court will no longer function very well, and we will take measures to wokeify every step of our incompetence, so much so your mom can call in your court appearance via Zoom if you are scared. And as I indicated before, judges across the country are owned by the various cartels. It's sad, but it's true.
Well, and so hang on. I want to stop right there for just a second. I promise
Sure.
I won't take too long.
Please.
But the thing about it is, Joe Biden throwing open the border the way he did made that exponentially worse, because the cartels, I guarantee you, made it clear to most of these judges, we can find you and we can get to you because your border is a joke. Now, it may start changing again a little bit, but they're going to have to do exactly what they did and start cracking down on these judges that are just making shit up as they go along. But the funny thing is, because I just heard Schumer, I think it was Schumer, again today, talking about how dangerous it is that they're arresting judges now and how inappropriate that is. And I'm like, dude, you were openly threatening judges on an open microphone, my guy.
Exactly. In public, and as I indicated at the beginning of the show, let's see if I can go back to this.
But real quick, this is also the same people that praise arresting a president or ex-president. They praised arresting his attorneys for representing him, but arresting a judge for breaking federal law is across the line.
Well, let's also not forget they're fine with a CEO of an insurance company being assassinated.
Sure, and that's fine. And as I pointed out in the first hour, if folks you weren't here, this is from Daily Caller. Assassination culture. A poll shows that fully 50%, I think it's over 50%, well, between 48 and 55% of essentially leftists believe that killing Trump or killing Musk, hey, that's A-okay. That has no problem inherent within itself at all. But these are the days in which we live right now. So you have such elements in such contretemps with such hatred of each other. You occasionally become at a loss for words. And this is all buttressed but by what I call the American media maggots. And the reason I have called them that for so many years is because essentially they feed off the dead. And they do nothing except feed off the dead and contribute nothing except they criticize nothing. Or excuse me, they criticize everything. Then they had a dinner and just the slightest bit of truth happened to escape during an award. That was the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And this guy who works for Axios by the name of Alex Thompson got an award. And this is his lead in.
This year's award goes to Alex Thompson of Axios.
Okay. Now, I don't think I have the wherewithal or the inclination to play the whole thing, but you can see that the applause at the very beginning was tepid. Now, whether they knew that this was going to be the award proffered at this time or not, I don't know. But they weren't wild with applause. Yeah, those are what I call PGPs, polite golf claps.
Well, it's kind of hard to give raucous applause when you're too busy wanking under the table.
Well, and that too.
Thompson's aggressive reporting on President Biden, especially leading up to and after the Trump-Biden debate, revealed the president's cognitive decline was impacting his ability to do his job, information the White House tried to conceal. Ladies and gentlemen, the White House Correspondents Association is pleased to give the Aldo Beckman Award to Alex.
Let's fast forward.
Indulge me because I have a lot of thank yous. Thank you first to my mom, to my dad, for building Axios, for hiring me.
Let's go further.
Importance of trustworthy journalism. Thank you to Asia Whitaker Moore, Kate Marie, Biden Beat, the great Hans Nichols, And
Let's get into
support
meat. Come on,
for
come on, come
Axios
on.
For telling me I should go and work for Axios, attack it. I wouldn't be standing here without you each. So a nakedly shameless plug that Original Sin is available for trusting me. One serious note, to my bones, I believe that reporting and the White House Correspondents Association is as necessary as ever. President Biden's decline and its cover-up by the people around him is a reminder that every White House, regardless of party, is capable of deception.
Okay, let me just stop right here and have you two gentlemen, if you would be so kind, weigh in on the naked fucking bullshit hypocrisy of asshores like this guy. And they're giving him an award for stating the obvious that every 5-year-old who can stand on a street corner at any urban rat cage and point at a car and say 5-0 knows inherently what was going on. Gents,
welcome to this episode of Ass Whores in Space.
All right, but no, seriously. Look, this is the new talking point. I saw somebody else today talking about how, it wasn't the media that was perpetuating this, that it was a right-wing talking point, that it was the media trying to hide it. And there were lots of people. There were like 5 guys. Out of the entire media complex, there were like 5. And this didn't even start until after the debate. 2 days after the debate, there were like 5 people that broke ranks and started putting out stories about how bad Joe Biden looked on the debate stage. And everybody lambasted them. And for months, we had video of the president of the United States having to be led around by the hand by the Italian prime minister, by the Easter bunny, for fuck's sake.
Yeah,
the Easter bunny in his own house. The Easter bunny had to wrangle POTUS. I mean, was it a Secret Service dude in a bunny suit? Was that, because that's kind of what that felt like. But yeah, don't tell me that it was just a talking point. Don't tell me that it was just BS. You guys tried to snow the American people, and this is one of the reasons why your popularity is dwindling no matter how hard you try, because there's going to be a group of us that are never going to forget what you've tried to do. And this was just part of it. You lied to us about COVID. You lied to us about the election in 2020. You lied to us about the inflation and everything else that we witnessed with our own eyes while Biden was in office. And you told us it was all no big deal. You told us there was no issue with inflation, that it was transitory, that the economy was awesome. All of the above. You have lied to us over and over and over again. And whether you like it or not, there have been people on both sides of the aisle that have been complicit in these lies. And this is one of the reasons why I am done. I am done pulling punches with these people. I'm done holding hands with these people. I'm calling bullshit when I see it from now on. And this whole thing is bullshit because the dude was a turnip before they swore him in. This is why, and everybody knew it. After he got the nomination, he started touring the country saying, don't worry, I'm just going to be a transitional president. We're going to find somebody to take my place for my second term. But it didn't work because Lady McBiden liked the power. Lady McBiden liked being the one pushing a lot of the buttons and pulling the levers behind the scenes. And you'll never convince me that she wasn't one of the handful of people that was doing that, because there's no reason they would have turned a cabinet level meeting over to her if she was not.
Exactly. The other thing that I want to point out is I worked child abuse, and for a while I worked elder abuse. If the circumstances were similar, I would have filed a warrant request for Jill Biden. That was one of the worst things, at a time when a guy should be enjoying his final days, and he is experiencing his final days, he shouldn't have to worry about this. And the only person who wanted to put him there is she insisted on putting him on Front Street, which is the worst thing for him. Now, is this the individual that possibly you were thinking of? I want to play this because here's another motherfucker virtue signaling the lovely, illustrious Chuck Todd.
Sort of the virtue signaling that some people have done.
Oh, did I just say virtue signaling?
To try to say that the media missed this story. They didn't miss this story.
No.
David Ignatius
Okay. People, it's just, how do you sit in front of a camera and lie like that? Oh,
I want to know what
media.
reality these people live in.
You know, it's like,
They don't live in reality.
what the hell, Chuck Todd?
This wrote, I just refuse to accept this stupid premise because it's a right-wing manufactured
Can you
right-wing
back up
premise.
for just a
in order to-
second? Look at the other guy's face. Right, right after he said that. Look at
Chris Saliza. Yeah.
Yeah, you can go back to it in a second if you want. You can let the tape play first. But yeah, I was noticing that because I didn't pause it in that point today, and I'm like, holy shit, this dude is already like calling him a liar without having to say a word. Just look at his face.
It's just, again, the standard Mark 1 Model 1 BZ axiom is you can't write this shit. It writes itself by asshores like this guy.
To stain the media. The media's got plenty of things to attack them for, and there are MSNBC and CNN and pundits that absolutely carried water for Joe Biden.
But I didn't. That's the underlying subtext is all of these other people got it wrong, but I got it right because I am better and more insightful than they could possibly be. Chuck?
But they're not journalists. They're former strategists that carried water for Joe Biden. The journalist, David Ignatius, wrote a very high-profile column in October of 23 saying, is he really running again? This doesn't seem like a good idea.
Okay, who buried that? Who buried that, Chuck? Who buried that? That would be the American media maggots and your own MSNBC, thank you.
People like me were promoting Dean Phillips' campaign because he was running.
Wall Street Journal did a bunch of coverage.
So it's not like this. This isn't WMDs where the White House worked.
Okay, I've had enough of him. I quantify this as what occurred with Joe Biden and the auto pen and I used to know the names of all the individuals that I suspect of running it. Joe Biden was one of them. Ron Klain, and there are about 4 or 5 others who, unelected, were running the United States of America. This is worse than the possible Teapot Dome scandal. This was, in my opinion, the worst political scandal in the history of the United States that everyone except a handful, perhaps the 3 here and a few others in the podcast world, know quite well. This was the worst political scandal ever, where a host of people elected a 46th president, but that wasn't the individual that was actually making decisions. Speaker Johnson had a situation where he asked Joe Biden, well, why didn't you do this and that and the other thing? And he said to Speaker Johnson, Joe Biden, well, I did. No, you didn't, Mr. President, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Moose and squirrel. Moose.
You did the opposite.
And squirrel.
But no. So I think I know what the Democrats' ticket's going to be in 28.
Okay.
I think they're just going to run the auto pen on the teleprompter.
Why not? It has worked so wonderfully for them up to this point. And with that, ladles and gentle Ben, I'm going to have to wrap up the show because I don't have overtime. And Mrs. BZ came in and looked at me through the door, and we have something that we need to do. So at almost 10, at almost 10 o'clock, I am going to have to say farewell. However, before I say farewell, I would like everybody giggity. I can't giggity. Okay, I can kind of say it. Not as well as that guy can. Jersey Joe, tell folks about your podcast and where you can be found and seen. Your show, please.
I am the host of Reverb Common Sense. It's Monday and Fridays. I have been on a little bit of a hiatus. Life has gotten in the way of the show. I'm hoping to be back Monday, possibly Friday. We'll see. But yeah, you can catch me on all the SHR media. And what is it? On X at Jersey Joe Talks.
Okay. Excellente, Jersey Joe. Thank you very kindly. I appreciate your being here. And of course, let's do this. Cheetah, this just in. You assholes in the media helped cover it up. And then Lost Wanderer said something very similar to, "You're stealing my bit. That'll be $20." Do you know in what portion, in what frame he is referencing that?
When I did the S Wars in Space bit.
Okay.
But in reality, he stole it from the Muppets, so meh.
So immaterial difference. And Lost Wanderer says, "Hey, great show. Thank you for the kudos. Thanks for the show." Cheetah also. But before we go, I would like Rick to tell us about the 75,522 shows that you either run, have, or produce, or help to produce. There are quite a few, and this should be your time to talk about them all, sir.
All right, so Rick Robinson's show is Tuesday through Friday. Sorry, this is why you keep thinking I'm doing it, that I only do till Thursday, because I keep screwing it up when you give me the chance. Noon to 3, that is Eastern time. Wednesday is actually my busiest day of the week because I do that one first, and then every other Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, I also do America Off the Rails, which is actually the podcast that launched all of it, and that one's also usually on Mondays. Was not on last night because I had allergy issues. But as far as shows that I produce for tomorrow night, we will have the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show hosted by our resident Grouch, but I also produce that one. Then we have this the Whatever Show with myself and Stacey Lennox. Those are at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Eastern. Then we have myself and Ordnance J. Packard. We do the Rick and Orty Show. That is at 10 p.m. Eastern. Thursday nights, I do the Jen and Rick Show. Friday night, I do He Said, She Said with the lovely Aggie Rican. The Jen and Rick Show is at 10 p.m. Eastern. Normally, we're usually the opening act before we turn things over to your live broadcast because we do simulcast you on that night. And then Saturdays, I push buttons for the Front Porch Forensics crew. That is our murder podcast kind of thing. And then usually we do a show every other Saturday night called Juxtaposition. Unfortunately, weather and other issues have gotten in the way in that one. So we got caught up for a little bit. Now we're behind again. So we're planning on doing a bonus episode this coming Saturday, as long as the weather holds, because I'm in the middle of nadir season and it's really hard to do anything when, like right now, I've got like thunder and lightning all around me. Technically, I should have already shut down my computer, but I'm like, yeah, I'm doing the show.
It's funny you should mention that because at the beginning of the show, I also mentioned the fact that we've had a lot of thunder and lightning around here. We got some hail. We got some pretty good rain just prior to the show itself. We haven't had any blackouts or brownouts or anything like that. I've just been very, very lucky. And I have to say this, if I can, and please don't hate me for being beautiful, but someday I wish that you'd really learn to work and you're a serious underachiever.
You know what it is? My entire life growing up, all I ever heard, remember the bald principal on Back to the Future?
Yes.
Slacker. That's always been in the back of my head. You're just such a slacker. So I always feel like there's more that I should be doing. Unfortunately, I've now reached the age where my desire to do things sometimes is unmatched by my inability to have enough energy to do all the things that I want to do, but I still try to do them all anyway. Which is why Jeff is still giving me crap in the chat about juxtaposition, because he's a nerd like that, but it's okay.
And there he is. Oh, wait. But wait, there's more from Lost Wanderer. Slacker. Shit. So he must be sending you stuff too, as a matter of fact.
Oh yeah, he's been doing countdown videos and stuff for all the shows.
That's great. That's part of his job. That's part of raising him. So thanks, Rick. I will see you in the morning because I will be on your busy show tomorrow. Not on your show, but I will be.
We do need to figure that out sometime because I did try to have you on and then you had a pet emergency. So we do need to
that's true. Anyway, thanks for being here. I'd love to be on your show, but I will be kibitzing on your show tomorrow morning, kibitzingly, because that's the way that I do it. Anyway, that is Rick Robinson. Thanks for being here. And with that, I'm going to have to wrap up with something that sounds shockingly similar to We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. And I'm BZ, wrapping up my show. Thanks for watching. I say something similar to because this is what I do. That promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, by Shure and Electro Voice microphones, by the Arrakis Company, the people who make my mixer, by Pratt & Whitney engines. They manufacture dependable engines that produce thrust.
To the folks that I know, tell them
You can trust. And also, I will be consorting in a very small while with my KC-135 Kettle One refueling team. You know I'm good for it. So, thanks to Jersey Joe. Thanks to Rick Robinson. Thanks to KLRN. And thanks to each and every one of you who were watching the show tonight watchingly. You were awesome. You awesome awesomers. Thanks for awesoming. God bless. Take care. Good night.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.